Okay.
Brother
Now,
Spear, just to
yes.
let you know, you've got 8 minutes left.
Okay, I'm wrapping up. I'm on slide
Okay.
14 of 19. All right. Now, Kemet's fall leads to the Trans-Saharan slave trade. Within the Medu Netur, our original sacred teachings, the foreign invasions into Kemet by the Hyksos, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans represent the metaphysical fall of the global spiritual epicenter. This historical collapse directly sets the stage for the Arab trans-Saharan slave trade. Okay? By this time, the Greeks, the Persians, the Romans, they're already institutionalizing massive chattel slavery in North Africa. Okay? This caused or forced the people of North Africa into survival mode. So now they are focused on spheres 7, 8, and 9, just on how to survive. And so this is what allowed the Arabs to come in and do the destruction that they did in the name of Islam, this Abrahamic religion. Now, the trans-Saharan slave trade leads to the Dum Diversis War and the enslavement by Europeans. Enslavement under the trans-Saharan trade forced large populations into a chronic generational state of fight or flight. This forced the collective consciousness and vibratory power down from the higher spheres into the lowest center of the tree in the realm of Set. A population operating from the lower nature is structurally vulnerable to external conquest. The trans-Saharan trade did the psychological heavy lifting of instilling fear. If you're an infidel, right, you're going to be conquered by these, powerful weapon horse riding, Muslims, right? It instilled this fear. It divided the people between, right, Islam, Muslim faithful, and infidels, and caused this trauma over hundreds of years. The European transatlantic trade simply capitalized on this pre existing, deeply entrenched psychic vulnerability using advanced Setian brutality to complete the material capture of the continent. The Arab trans Saharan trade was the metaphysical and psychological catalyst, while the European transatlantic trade was the material execution. Now, who was at the head of this trans Saharan trade? It was these West African kingdoms, Mansa Musa, Mali, right? These leaders of these West African kingdoms, right, were perpetrating this Setian brutality. So the automatic justice, the law of Herakuti, was applied to them. Thus, it was what? West Africa, which suffered the European trade, because it was West Africa that had laid the groundwork through the Trans-Saharan impact. All right, towards Desi and Weha. The Balanta people, who are some of the original inhabitants of the Happy or Nile Valley, who migrated from there to their homeland on the west coast of Africa in Guinea-Bissau before 3500 BC. So before Narmer invades and unites the three different confederacies to establish the first dynasty in Egypt. My ancestors left. We had nothing to do with that. We were gone by then. They have a word that best describes this historical imperative. The Sina, which means to recover a soul of a sick person caught in witchcraft by a witch doctor, and Kadesi, which means recovering of the soul of a sick person. Only then can the person experience Weha, which means to be healed, cured. So the Pan-African, I have 3 slides, I'm done. The Pan-African spiritual imperative is this. It's Kadesi, Weha, returning to the source, to heal the souls of sick people harmed by this witchcraft. We invoke the Sankofa principle. Go back and get it. Learn from the past to build the future. We must recover the original spiritual teachings. Reconnect with the indwelling divine intelligence in order to produce Homo spiritualis. We have to transform Homo sapiens sapiens to Homo spiritualis, meaning we have to master the animal and human nature through spiritual discipline, Herakuhuti. We have to allow the dwelling divine intelligence and rule We have to allow indwelling divine intelligence to rule voluntary and involuntary behavior. We have to actually program our subconscious through neurolinguistic programming, right? We have to reprogram our subconscious behavior, which, as most of us know, is the majority of our behavior. It's automatic subconscious programming. It's not conscious. This is the reason why people can say, I want to quit smoking, but can't. This is the reason why people know they need to eat right and exercise, and yet they don't. We have to restore Ma'at in individual and society, and we have to apply it in this age of artificial intelligence. We have a new threat, digital colonialism or foreign domination via AI. It's the same pattern, external technology replacing internal wisdom. The solution is to strengthen the divine consciousness through specific technologies designed to do so, just like an Olympic coach uses specific training to produce Olympic champions. And then we build new African civilizations based on this new spiritual foundation. So here's the call to action for individuals: pursue self knowledge, develop moral faculties, realize the divinity that dwells within you. For communities, restore the spiritual governance, meaning only those people that can demonstrate that they have activated sovereign activation and they have reached identified levels. I won't go into that now, but there's strict curriculums. There's a way to determine all of this. Only those people who have reached a certain level of realizing their divinity are allowed to serve in government. For the continent, unite on this spiritual imperative, echoing Nkrumah's unite or perish. And for humanity, we have to model the alternative to materialist AI-dependent civilization. My last slide. This is just, everybody will have access to this. I'll drop the link where all of this is available to you. You can download the PDFs, but this is my research that deals with a lot of this and goes into great detail. So let me land there and take questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Spirit. I don't know if we should take questions now and instead move to the next presenter, because we tend to take a long time with the questions. I think, can people write their questions down and hold on to that, and then we can keep them for the bigger discussion later, if that's okay. Does everybody say that's okay? Because we're behind time. We're trying to catch up with time. We're even shortening the lunch period. We're gonna have to eat lunch right here in front of the screen. So are we all okay with that?
Okay.
Yes, okay. So can we move on to the next presenter? I had to shift that around again because Baba Mafole Semantlane, he seems to have to leave soon. It was going to be African Voices, but can African Voices come after lunch, which is about 15 minutes. And then right now we will have Baba Mafole come in with his topic, a decolonial critique of educational reform, reclaiming Ubuntu as ontological and epistemic foundation and praxis. Can you please go ahead, Baba Mafole? Sorry, Baba Mafole. That's the name that I have here. Are you in the room?
I'm in the room, ma'am. I'm trying to
Okay.
share the screen now.
All right. Thank you so much. Colleagues, please write down your questions where you're seated and keep them. We will address them a bit later on when we have a bigger discussion. Let's just get through the presentations, and then
Can you help me to share, please?
you have been made a co-host. So at the bottom of your screen, you should have the share button, and it will ask you what to share, like your entire screen or just the window. Are you seeing any of that?
Yes, I have. Are you seeing my screen?
No.
No?
No.
Chair,
Yes.
Brother Mafole can send the slides to me if that
Okay.
helps.
All right.
I
Can
think
you?
he's getting it right now.
Oh, he's got it. Okay. There you go. All right. I am signing off and giving you the floor. Your presentation is 30 minutes, so at 11:40 is your time up. I will interrupt you 10 minutes before. Okay. Go ahead.
Is my screen there?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see it? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
And thank you for indulging me. I have two very close funerals to attend to this weekend, so I'm running up helter-skelter. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. And I think it's very opportune that Brother presented before me. And so what we are going to be looking at is maybe putting what he said into context and then moving on to how to work on the decolonization agenda. This is my conceptualization of the Sankofa, the Ghanaian Sankofa. Here, the head that's facing back is the memory of the bird going back to the past and picking an egg to lay for the future. The presentation starts with creation. The creator with his or her energy here and thoughts, and first of all, creating the universe. After the universe, creating the individual, the family, the community, and then giving the family, the community, the law of Ma'at, out of which we developed Ubuntu. And as we grew, people passed on and they became ancestors. Then came in slavery and colonization. What did they do? They separated us from the universe, from the creator, and put in place of ancestors, put in their saints. And our work now is to deal with that. How do they do that? Layer after layer, like an onion, they covered our identity. And they put us in Plato's cave. They gave us pictures, faced us away from the light. And what we have to do is to move, turn back and move into the light. Sorry about that. Something's gone wrong with my presentation here. Excuse me. The slides have moved forward for some reason that I don't understand. We were here. So we did our lives like we are wearing shades that give life eternity. And the American natives call the sickness that this slavery and colonization caused wetiko, mind virus and mind blindness. They also came up with, the colonizers came up with the education system to indoctrinate us. And they also came up with the type of economics that they call free market economics when it is actually fettered economics. And it is like we are living inside an eggshell. And our work is to do what? To break the eggshell from the inside. That is decolonizing ourselves. As Biko says, the most potent weapon of the colonizer is the mind of the colonized. So we have to break the shell from inside so that we can live again. And how do we do that? Go back, family, back to that process and honor our ancestors. Right now, according to Fall and Welpe, colonization and education are closely intertwined. What I'm presenting here is to show how we can instead intertwine decoloniality with Ubuntu regenerative transformation. And that is the critique that I am presenting here, so that they can be intertwined. In a nutshell, this is what currently the educators want to reform. But my point is we need to decolonize the educators themselves. We need to liberate the brains and the mind, the hearts, the brains, and the mind. And how do we do that? I have looked at the models that are used in the reform of education. This is Keller's model of what he calls ACS: attention, relevance, confidence, and satisfaction. I'm going to go quickly through it because there are many slides here. What I have come up with is the ARC model: attention, relevance, confidence, and contentment instead of satisfaction. Contentment meaning we are okay with what we have achieved, but we still want to grow from that. So I have put in a few elements to augment Keller's model. Instead of what he says is in attention, inquiry, I'm saying we need to use appreciative inquiry. He talks about humor. Yes, it is needed for the education, but learners also need to enjoy what they are learning. I agree with him about variability, but he also talks about participation in education. Participation is not, for me, is not enough. We need committed engagement and concreteness of the material that is being learned. He talks about incongruity and conflict. I instead think we need to look at congruity and harmony. And the next element is relevance. In it, he talks about the need for experience. I've divided the experience into two: anchoring experience, which is the current experience, but the experience must also be transformative, looking into the future. He talks about immediate applicability, and I bring in future regenerative usefulness, not sustainability. I heard some presenters still talk about sustainability. Sustainability is reducing harm, whereas regeneration is actually recovering the ecosystem and recovering our identity and our Ubuntu. And we need also to look at the needs of education to meet the needs of society. And this has got to come by choice. The next element is that of confidence, in which he talks about, sorry, I want to remove this. Oh, the screen is gone again.
No, we can see you, Baba.
I don't see my presentation now. I'll get it quickly. Excuse me a second, please.
It means you can see your screen.
You can't see my screen?
We can see it.
We can see
You
your
can see it? I can't see it. I'm trying to get it back myself because I can't see
We are
it.
seeing it. So put escape, then come back.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I also can see it. Sorry for that. For confidence, I agree with Keller, but I think what is important is that we need to accept our vulnerability and vulnerabilities of learners so that we can be able to. One of the major vulnerabilities come from our being colonized, coloniality, the colonization of our minds. So we've got to liberate them. So we need also to look at transformation, not to just go on with education as it is. And finally, it is the contentment that I talk about. And he looks at scheduling positive outcomes, at unexpected rewards for whatever work we do for transforming, for decolonizing, and the natural consequences. But I also look at the need for us to be able to learn from the application feedback, whereas we try to decolonize. And we also need to seek growth-inspiring influences from our interventions. And this makes the difference. Keller's model is motivation, but motivation is a low-level outcome. What we really need is volition and flourishing, ancestral future flourishing. And so this is one of the ways that I look at the education reform that we need to transform it. But also there is education uses what they call the PERMA +4 model. Instead, I have augmented it with a program for building Ubuntu civil learning communities, where it is for social healing and recovering our natural potential for Ubuntu and high achievement. On the basis of this community building process, now I augment the PERMA model into a model where we are looking at emotions and spirit as we are looking at spirituality in this conference. We also look at question of commitment more than this is positive emotions, engagement, but I'm looking at committed engagement, as I said earlier. This is the relations. I'm looking at healthy value-adding relations, not just relations. And also, he looks at meaning of the work, the learning that is being done. I'm proposing human identity and dignity as what will give us a better meaning. And he also looks at achievement, but as I said, I look at contentment. And I also augment the other elements into a holistic health, which includes physical, mental, social, and the spirituality that we are talking about. I'm also looking at ancestral, future-oriented growth mindsets, not just growth mindsets. I'm also looking at a regenerative environment, not just working on the environment, making sure that it is also regenerative, and looking at competent, self-driven global citizens. This is what the program will deliver. I have actually been delivering this, building Ubuntu civil learning communities with some groups. And this is how I perceive the augmented PERMA +4 model, which looks at, as I said, overall the regeneration, transformation, and knowing. How do we do that? The difference here is when PERMA 4 focuses on positive emotions, I look at fostering positive emotions, and I have shown here the comparison. I've already covered that. But education now has adopted the biophysical, biopsychosocial, and spiritual model from medicine. But the model is not yet bringing about change because it still lacks. This is the model. I will not go deep into it. But what Ubuntu does, functional Ubuntu, when we live and experience Ubuntu, then we are able to help to increase the impact and the efficacy of the biopsychosocial and spiritual model. The other model that I bring into into the education system is the geodesic learning model or geodesic information processing model, in which is based on how the brain learns best. And that also uses mind mapping applications. And with that, it helps to increase our own self-regulation so that the output becomes what we are looking for. This is augmenting the process, the agenda of decoloniality. How does this happen in the brain? Coloniality, our brain is actually divided into two: the left prefrontal cortex and the right prefrontal cortex. The right prefrontal cortex deals with fear, and the left prefrontal cortex deals with love. What colonization has done is to lock our brains through fear into and making the fear domain our default mode. What decolonization needs to do is to help rewire the brain so that we can then apply Ubuntu, which is based on love, to unlock the left prefrontal cortex that deals with love, so that most of our work, most of our responses to life should be what? Should be focusing on building great relations, building forgiveness. Because forgiveness calms our minds, and it helps us to reconcile so that even the unity of Africa that is becoming very evasive, we are able to achieve that, but by unlocking Ubuntu. Because scholars say that, for instance, Mukuzo says that Ubuntu is under siege, and the processes that I'm dealing with here help to rescue Ubuntu. The brain is also divided into the lower domain, the cognitive domain that deals with 10% or less of our thinking, which long-term suppression has locked our minds into. And it has also the metacognitive, the higher thinking brain, where we are able to think about our own thinking. And the processes that I'm talking about help us to unlock, Ubuntu helps us to unlock the higher brain so that we are able to look at higher questions of life. We talked about meaning, who we are. We are able to ask ourselves, who am I? Who are you? How can I become a better version of myself? And it also helps us to be able to look at how we can improve the situation, the current human condition, and to flourish. And finally, this is the process that I talked about, the program that I talked about, building Ubuntu civil learning communities. And it is based on how Africans used to meet in circles. This is the circle of dialogue. What does it do? It builds this civil learning, Ubuntu civil learning community is a group of fearless individuals who become leaders, ethical leaders, who submit themselves to a higher power that is more knowing, more objective and caring. It is a group that cares for children and its women and cherishes them, cherishes how to bring up children in the Ubuntu mindset. It also helps people to learn how to learn, as I showed in the previous slide. It also helps us to think about our own thinking. It helps us to be able to grow. It helps us to be able to change, to transform and unlock our Ubuntu, be able to change the self, not change the other, but change the self, and also be able to change our context. It also helps us when we are in community we learn how to communicate honestly with ourselves. Also how to develop deep relations that go beyond our usual masks of composure. It also helps us to also develop significant commitment to rejoice together, to mourn together, and to delight in each other, and to take each other's condition as our own. Building Ubuntu learning communities helps to unlock our intelligence, because then you'll remember from the first two slides, we are then able to reconnect with the Creator. We are also able to reconnect with our ancestors. We are also able to reconnect with Ma'at. What does that do? Helps us to connect with the universal mind, the universal consciousness, and the universal thought. By doing that, again, by switching from the right prefrontal cortex to the left prefrontal cortex, by what is called in the Bible, what is called in Matthew 7, verses 13 to 14, what is called the short or the wide gate that attracts foolish people, that leads to death, and the narrow gate that leads to life. The narrow gate is the longer love brain pathway. And when we are in this community, we have a lot of positive energy that comes from sources that we are not aware of. It comes from the universe. We are able to unlock our own thinking. We think better than the way we could ever imagine we could be able to think. And the results are something that is beyond imagination. And that is the end of my presentation, how we can be able to look at human beings as whole beings that are also spiritual, develop the spirit, develop emotions, develop the social relations, and develop the human being even physical. And that is what is the remedy for the current human condition. Other researchers also say that. For instance, Professor Lee, who is very responsible for the advancement of IT in China, says that even though AI is advancing, and there seems to be, we will remember that there has been talk about the AI world order. But he says that AI world order also needs to be complemented with human love, and which is what Ubuntu is all about. I thank you very much for your attention.